Happy Monday. We just had a massive weekend in pro wrestling. Today we're talking about WWE being interested in signing an AEW tag team, plus more details on the CM Punk drama. And we're going to be talking about his in-ring future because it's being said that it's in question. It's all coming up right here on TAS. All right, guys, before we could get to the big stuff, we got to talk about this. Jackson Riker has announced his retirement for pro wrestling. You might not even care. But at one point, Jackson Riker, you know, he looked like he could have been a big deal in pro wrestling. There was a time in TNA when he was Gunner. A lot of people thought there was massive potential with him. He finally made his way to the WWE, probably much later than preferred. He went to the WWE, and then he was paired with Weston Blake and Steve Macklin as the Forgotten Sons. It looked like WWE was willing to work on something and make that something bigger than what it was. They tried doing stuff with Jackson Riker, but all of this was wrong timing, right? If you don't remember, a lot of this happened in 2020, 2021-ish time period. Jackson Riker was very outspoken with his internal beliefs towards politics. It rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially just considering the social climate of everything. WWE ended up releasing him. Now, yesterday, he had a match at AML Wrestling. He had a match against George South. He won, and then he put his boots in the ring. And honestly, really, look, here's the thing. I'm not going to lie. I feel like the way WWE presented Jackson Riker, I didn't care for it, right? But I was a huge fan of Steve Macklin, better known as Steve Cutler, back when he was in WWE NXT. They put him in the Forgotten Sons. I liked Weston Blake. I thought Weston Blake and Buddy Murphy at the time, I thought they were a great tag team. So there was a lot of things I liked about those two guys. I was just glad to see that they were getting an opportunity to be on TV. All of that pretty much got blown away and thrown away, and they couldn't do anything with them, and they were deeply impacted by it. Speaking of being impacted by it, Steve Cutler went to Impact Wrestling, became Steve Macklin, completely revitalized his career. He's one of the top guys there. So he's the one that benefited a lot from leaving WWE. But it's just, it's funny, man. Like sometimes it's like you watch wrestling, you see these guys, especially when I used to watch Gunner and TNA, I used to think, man, this guy had some serious potential. Some people agree, some people don't. But I always thought there was some potential. And then it's just like, you know, sometimes these wrestlers, it's just better to be quiet. Really. I mean, it's just better to be quiet. You know, you got sponsors, you got a whole bunch of stuff. You got a lot of people to make happy when you're on television like that. And obviously that is one of the issues, but it just didn't work out for him. I don't think his presentation, I don't think anything really worked in his favor in general. So whether or not the comments and stuff that he made even happened or not, I still think WWE wouldn't have done anything with them. Guys, our next story of the day, we got to talk about this. WWE signed a licensing deal with the NFL. It's a new merchandise partnership with the NFL and Fanatics. And there was something very funny that happened with this one. So they announced that there's going to be a championship belt for all 32 NFL teams. And then very, very fast into the release online, there was one team in particular that sold out. Now, I thought this was funny because who could have sold out so fast? I mean, we're talking about a league with so many amazing, incredibly profitable, rich history, storied teams. And the one that sold out so fast was Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I'm not saying it would be impossible for them to sell out so fast, but what I do find this to be fascinating, the reason why I find it so fascinating is because of the people who own the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's the Khan family. The Khan family that owns AEW owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Fanatics actually put out a statement saying that they sold out and they'll be restocking soon, but for 1 second, I just don't believe that. Look, with WWE having this licensing deal with Fanatics, so it's, you know, WWE Shop, Fanatics, and NFL Shop, this is the first ever licensing agreement between WWE and NFL. I might not be a big fan of the way the title belts look, but I do think it's a good business venture. The biggest problem with this, though, is that when you're part of the NFL union and things like this happen, I mean, technically WWE would be in business with the Khan family. And I just find that to be absolutely funny that just coincidentally, out of all 32 teams, it was Jacksonville who sold out. I just don't believe that for 1 second, and we'll see what actually comes out of this. Now, when you go on the website, it only shows 31 instead of 32. It seems like maybe they made the mistake of putting Jacksonville on there. I don't know, Maybe that was the plan the entire time because they couldn't leave out Jacksonville, but maybe that's just kind of what they're saying is sold out. I don't know. I'm just, from a fan perspective, I thought it was absolutely funny. The idea of that technically they would all be in business together. It's so crazy. As a Lions fan, I mean, I don't think any of the other belts matter because I think when the Lions win the Super Bowl, I think they should be rocking those Lions belts instead. Guys, WWE is reportedly very interested in signing the Gun Club. I always like to take these types of reports with a grain of salt, especially when maybe they come from a source that's not the most, popular or whatever. But Slice Wrestling in the past has dropped a couple stories that were accurate, and we've talked about this on the channel. I don't report or talk about everything that they drop, but this one does seem pretty realistic. Slice Wrestling came out and said that WWE is discussing signing the Guns, Austin and Colton Gunn, to a lucrative contract once their AEW contracts run its course. The Guns, which are the real-life sons of WWE Hall of Famer Billy Gunn, are very high on WWE's most wanted list. A source told Slice Wrestling that WWE is dying to sign the Guns, and they will be offering them big contracts. Now, we all know that WWE does have a tendency to go after second and third generation wrestlers. We know that WWE wanted FTR. FTR decided to stay in AEW. So we know there is some wiggle room for WWE to go after another tag team, right? If they landed FTR, they might not be thinking about the Guns, but they didn't land FTR, so now they could be thinking about the Guns. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, just like from a full transparency, I think the Guns are sick. I really do, and I think they're great wrestlers, but I think they're even better characters. And when I look at fit, I think these guys could be a really good fit into WWE. But there's one problem. WWE still doesn't give a shit about their tag team division. So until they fix their tag team division, I really can't publicly advocate for tag teams to go into WWE. I think tag team wrestling is way more prominent in Impact and in AEW. WWE still hasn't deunified those championship belts. WWE still hasn't split them up. We know that they're ready to release the new belts. They just haven't done them. So as much as I would be happy to see the Guns go into WWE, I would not be happy to see the Guns going into WWE looking at the current state of the tag team division. Until that changes, I have zero interest in it. But it is very believable that WWE would be interested in them considering how good they've been and how much AEW continues to improve with them. And I also would want to see them skip NXT and just go straight to the main roster. I don't think they would need to go to NXT. I think they could go to the main roster, have some bangers, and they got the character work and charisma to do it. All right, guys, we got to talk a little bit about Jack Perry, CM Punk. Very, very interesting report came out from Nick Hausman of Wrestling House. This is really crazy. So we talked a little bit about the story of them fighting backstage. There's more details on this one. And in this article, there was something very, very crazy. So I'm about to read it to you guys. So basically, for those who don't know, Punk was waiting in the gorilla position before the show went live for his match against Samoa Joe. When Perry entered the area and walked up to him, Punk initiated a verbal exchange between the two, asking Perry if he had something to say. The conversation quickly escalated, leading to Perry asking Punk to do something about it. This is when Punk shoved Perry. Perry responded by shoving Punk back, and then Punk put him in what is being described as a chokehold. We're told Punk viewed putting Perry in a chokehold as a way to neutralize the situation, as he's a trained fighter and does not want to fight. He doesn't want to have to fight Jack Perry. No punches were thrown as far as we know. Keep in mind the original report suggested that punches were thrown. Punk then walked to his dressing room, got cleaned up, spoke with AEW security. Punk, knowing that in the situation was not good, asked them if it would be better for everyone if he left the building, was told that nobody was asking him to leave, but it might make things easier if he did. Punk agreed, left the building of his own accord, walked to his hotel, and ordered Nando's for some of the talent, whom he met up with after the show. From what they gather at Wrestling House, he says it doesn't sound like if there's been any communication between Punk and AEW since last night. Considering everything that is going on, it is fair to say that Punk's future with AEW and pro wrestling in general appears to be questionable. We will continue to bring you more on the situation as it develops. So there you have it. The idea that CM Punk's future is in question, yeah, it's very realistic. But at the same time, too, I think everybody's pointing fingers at CM Punk. There's multiple sides to the story, and I'm going to stay very consistent as I always do. I'm not picking sides. I always believe if you're involved in these types of backstage situations, you're all involved. You are all responsible in some degree. With that being said, I think everybody's trying to villainize CM Punk based on reports. That's not fair to CM Punk. People are trying to villainize Jack Perry based on these reports, and that is not fair to Jack Perry. If you weren't there, don't try to villainize somebody because that is simply not fair. Okay. And with that being said, I think CM Punk, with everything that's going on, maybe CM Punk, and AEW and everybody, they need to have a serious conversation just in general, because a lot of stuff that's happening on TV, then minutes later it gets reported that it's it's leading to an issue. And if all of that is legit, if it's actually leading to issues, then they need to take better control of their TV product. Simple as that.